Hi everybody, this is Dr. Rob Robinson, and this is vlog number 5 in our series of vlogs that we've been producing to give some self-help information in an effective, kind of brief way, easy to use and easy to understand. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in this vlog is the work of Dr. John and Julie Gottman. I speak frequently about these people because they've offered so much to the field of relationship counseling and understanding how relationships work and what's important in making relationships work. When you look at the work of the Gottmans, John Gottman spent probably the last 40 years of his life studying the science of relationships and has offered countless contributions to the world of doing relationship therapy, to the science of relationship therapy, and has given us some tremendous understanding about what's important in making relationships work. And he did that really by looking at what I would call, and he calls, the masters of marriage, the people who are probably in the Olympics because their marriages are so good. And he looked also at the disasters, people who are really struggling in their relationships, and studied these people in intimate detail to discover those kinds of components within the relationships, both sides, that make it work or make it fail. And so one of the things that Gottman came up with after years of research was a concept that he called, which was a symbol of all his work, he called it the sound relationship house. And if I can hold this up for a moment, you can see this. And you probably can grab this on John Gottman's website as well if you wanted to go to his website. The Gottman Institute, frankly. But this is just a symbol, really, or a format that shows, in essence, capturing all of the work he did in 40 years. So it's the sound relationship house, and there's 7 components. We'll go over them briefly. And if you're interested in reading more about the work of John Gottman, I would recommend his book called The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. It's a terrific book, and it outlines in very easy to use and easy to read terms the 40 years of his research. But in the foundational stage of the sound relationship house, he talks about love maps as one component. This would be the base, love maps down at the base. And love maps are really knowing everything you can possibly know in your partner's world. Talking about things, having discussions about, how's your job, and how's your aunt, and how's your mom doing, and how are the people at your work, and how was the problem you had with your boss the other day. It's really just sitting and asking and making time to ask open-ended questions about one another's lives. As it turns out, the more you know about your partner and the world that they live in and the world that you share together, the more that knowledge inoculates the relationship from stress. It actually forms a kind of connective process in the relationship. And when you think of best friends, for example, you think about people who really know a lot about one another's world. And that really is what Gottman was demonstrating with love maps, that friendship is a very, very important component to a healthy and happy relationship with someone. The next level up, if I can hold this up again, is sharing fondness and admiration for one another. And this is really a powerful tool, or a powerful piece of healthy relationships, where you're acknowledging and validating the love that you have for one another by looking for things that you really, really admire and are fond of in each other. And not just thinking it, but making it a point to say those things to each other every day. I love the way you handled this, or this is what I admire about you most. In essence, it's like catching someone doing something right and commenting on it, letting someone know, the positive feelings that you feel for them. And again, that's a component that builds the relationship friendship. When you have a best friend, people in your life who you're really close to in friendship, you're close to them because there are things that you admire about them, things that you're fond of in that person. So that's another component that builds the relationship friendship. The next one up on the ladder is staying turned towards your partner rather than away. And this simply means staying turned towards your partner in the way you think about them, which we talked before about fondness and admiration, but also in what you say and what you do, your behavior, where you're expressing fondness, or you're demonstrating affection through your words and your actions. And you're really making deposits in that other person's emotional bank account. As it turns out, how much is in each person's emotional bank account in a marriage has, again, a significant inoculating effect against the stress that people run into each day. If you have a lot in the emotional tank, then you're able to weather the storm of stress and conflict that comes in everybody's life together as a couple much more effectively. When these three things in the bottom are going really well, they're not on the bottom, by the way, because they're meaning less than the top piece. They actually are very important components, like I said, of the marital friendship. But when these things are going well, then there's a positive perspective. There's a positive sentiment that begins to override the relationship, not negative sentiment, which unfortunately erodes the connection that people have. You really want to keep a rich climate of love and affection and positive regard for one another in the relationship, so that overrides everything that people do, including management of conflict. And that's the next step up on the sound relationship house, the couple's capability, or how they manage conflict in their relationship, which is, by the way, inevitable. So, three things under the managing conflict piece. There's more about this that we can talk about in another vlog, and that actually would be a separate program that we can produce that I think would be very helpful. But three things under managing conflict. First of all, it's important really to be willing to accept your partner's influence. So if your partner has a point of view or an idea, and remember, in relationships, it's all about subjective reality. Who is it that can determine whose subjective reality is more valid than another person's? The important piece is being able to accept influence from that person. If they have an idea, a point of view, a point of reference, or a suggestion about how something could be managed, it really does work well when someone says, you know, that's a good idea, let's go with it, rather than putting up roadblocks or stonewalling things that are said. The other piece that goes into managing conflict that's important is maintaining dialogue about problems. You know, as it turns out in relationships, there are two types of problems. There are solvable problems and there are perpetual problems. And interestingly enough, Gottman found that 69% of the problems that we all run into in our relationships with our marriages and our partners are really perpetual problems that'll never really ultimately be solved, because they really have a lot to do with, you know, histories and physiologies and all of the things that kind of, you know, conjure up a lot of, you know, intense emotions in one another. And what often happens when these more difficult perpetual problems present themselves is it leads to gridlock, where people just kind of walk away in frustration and don't end up talking or having dialogue about the problem. It's important to keep the dialogue going, to be able to understand each person's point of view and why they see it the way they do and why it's important to them. And then finally, under managing conflict, what Gottman found was that it's important to stay calm when you're having discussions. We often don't think about how our heart rate might impact the ability to be able to solve problems rationally. And one of the things that Gottman found is that your heart rate goes up over 90 beats per minute. It's virtually impossible from a physiological standpoint to successfully resolve problems. That because your system, your physiological system, is so flooded. In fact, the term he gave for that was diffuse physiological arousal, or DPA. Once your heart rate's up over 90 beats per minute, it's important to take the time to calm yourself and to help it work at soothing your partner. Even if you have to take a break for longer than a half an hour and go back and revisit the topic, once you're calm and once you feel more at peace and are in a better position physiologically to have that discussion. And then we get to the top of the house, and we're now talking about making life dreams come true. And this is really kind of a very powerful process in a relationship where two things happen. Number one, you know what your partner's life dreams are. You know, what's most important to you, what's your vision for many different things. But trying to participate in your partner's life goals and make those visions and dreams possible as much as you might your own is a very powerful, connective, meaningful form of having a relationship with your partner. Know one another's life dreams and try to participate in making those dreams come true. And then finally, creating shared meaning at the top of the house. And that really is about rituals of connection, about so many different things, finding ways to celebrate victories, finding ways and rituals to deal with connection in our daily lives, celebrating special moments and occasions. So there's a lot of shared connective meaning with the things that matter most to us in life. And if all of these things are really in good shape, these principles of a sound relationship house, trust is usually incredibly powerful in that relationship, which is one of the load-bearing walls of the sound relationship house, the importance of trust. And we can talk about that in another vlog too, when we talk about the importance of bids, and that'll be another vlog down the road. And also the commitment is stronger. So that really is, in essence, the brief summary of the work of 40 years of John Gottman in about, 5 minutes. But like I said, if you really want to have some more information on this, check out his book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman. And thank you very much. It's been enjoyable being with you.